So welcome, everybody, to the second hour of Mindshifters Radio. Today is Thursday, August the 19th, 2021, and our call-in number is 563-999-3581. Press 1, and that puts you into queue to talk to us. We'd love to hear your comments and questions because that makes this your show. While we're waiting on Michael to get dialed in, I will just announce that starting tomorrow evening, and the flyer is on our website. I've also put a link in the notes for every day this week. But starting tomorrow night, August the 20th, from 7 to 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we're going to be doing Mind Shifters. And then Saturday, August the 21st, from 10 o'clock in the morning Eastern Time until probably 4, 5, 6 o'clock, depending on how much process takes place, we're going to be doing the still point breathing. The cost of the workshop is $125. Those who have participated in the online Codependence Intensive are invited as guests. And, of course, we're open to receive donations, too, as we're traveling. We always do our workshops for free, and then we open the door that if someone has benefited from it and wants to give a donation so the work continues, then we invite them to do that, and we accept it graciously. But that is the flyer is in the notes for every day this week. It's also on our website. You can click on the events section, or you can go to the news section, either one, and it's in both of those places. And let us know, though. It's pre-registration is required, and I will send you a Zoom link once you're registered. And we've already had several people sign up for it, so it should be a good weekend. We're looking forward to it. Breathing is always awesome. Welcome, Michael. Hello, Michael. Do we have technical difficulties? I'm going to walk in and check and see if he's having some kind of technical issue. I'm showing that he is on the switchboard, but perhaps there's some other issue going on.
He is on the switchboard.
There he is.
And the screen disappeared for me to unmute myself, so sort of technical difficulties, but anyway. Delighted that you're all here with us today, and we get to move this conversation one more notch up the ladder. And it's always fun to hear from people who use the tools or don't use them, but come across the benefit. I got an interesting phone call this morning from a gentleman who literally has been hanging around the tools for about 25 years, but never really engaged them, just kind of, was out there on the periphery. He's actually a minister, and he called me this morning. He's like very excited. And he had a family situation occur. And in this family situation, he was feeling a lot of anger and feeling left out of, family activities and such. And without actually remembering to cancel the goal specifically, he was able to, as an event occurred that triggered all of this for him, to just stop and kind of be with it and breathe. And he was quite pleasantly shocked and surprised. It's like, Michael, I just kind of was being with it and holding to the space of, I'm going to let go of my insanity instead of replying out of this hostility and rage that came out. He said, all of a sudden a memory came. He said the circumstance was a family gathering, and he said, I've, come back home after many, many years of being away, and cousins that, hadn't talked to in years, and I organized us getting together, and I've done a couple of events to bring people together, and then I saw a Facebook post by another family member, and the family member had posted something like, we got all the family together, and but he wasn't invited, he wasn't included. And he had enough brain cells to remember that, I've been through something like this before, but I have no recall of it. And so he just kind of slowed down instead of, spouting off, which might have been his norm, out of that hostility. He said, I just stopped. He said, I breathed for a minute, and all of a sudden a memory came. He said, Michael, I had this visual. He said, I'm in my 70s, and I had this visual of remembering when I was 6 years of age, and my father had talked about going to, I forget what it was, a hockey game or a football game, whatever. It was up in Detroit. And, here I am. I'm getting ready to go to this game with my father. And he says, I had the full memory. My uncle showed up. He knocks at the door, sticks his head in the door. And he said, I could almost hear my uncle's voice. My uncle said, okay, let's go, yelling to his dad. He said, I remember my dad looked at me. He says, it seemed now like it was maybe a look of guilt. But my dad looked at me and said, okay, bye, everybody, and walked us for 40 years. And you realize that that's not what it was about at all. Any morning that they chose to, if it were about being lost in this desert for 40 years, they could have got up and followed the sun to the west and known exactly where they were going and been freed of the desert. But it's a metaphor for living in this unconscious state, lost in unconscious dynamics, running your mouth based on something that happened 6+ decades ago, and bringing more destruction and more disintegrative energy into one's own physiology and into the world. Instead, he stopped, brought love present, and was able to move through. And it's like, it doesn't get better than that. To have a conversation with a man who's, every once in a while I hear from him, and he tends to live his life in a lot of trauma and a lot of rage. And instead of just blasting it out and unconsciously playing it out, he does a major, major piece of work. And that's the state we're inviting everyone into, to really step into and to recognize, when you're in a situation and your emotional response is not rational, it's disproportionate to what happens. The core of the process of forgiveness is that in any given moment, when your perceptual mind is serving up something based in hostility or fear, number one, it's serving it up because it's in there. The circumstance didn't create the hostility. The circumstance triggered the hostility into activity. The mind takes old, unresolved dynamics, in this case from a child of 6, hurt, feeling abandoned, feeling left out by his dad, a principle he offered has pretty much run his whole life, instead of getting lost in it. To recognize that at any given moment, when you want to uncover a memory like that, of course you have to be willing and in a receptive state, but the key way, the fastest way into cleaning up those kinds of dynamics is to look at, in the given moment, the goal that's driving your perception. Principle of forgiveness lies in recognizing that perception is a construct of the mind. And if it comes from a space of hostility or fear, it's because there's hostility or fear in there. If I want to uncover the memory that's driving the hostility or fear, if I want to process through that old memory, then I look in the current moment at the goal that I hold. In this case, with the cousins, his goal was to be included. What did a 6-year-old want desperately? But to be included with his dad going to a game. Decades later, the same goal resonates the unconscious pain, and then unconscious pain is seamlessly, invisibly integrated into today's perception. When I recognize that the word forgive in Aramaic is shabag, and that word means to cancel, when I cancel that goal is the driver that causes my mind to use that old unconscious family dynamic. When I cancel the goal, the perception of the moment collapses, and that's when I have access to that hidden part of my mind. When I bring that part of my mind forward in the presence of active love, then it dissolves, it heals, and forgiveness has occurred. Now, the Greeks gave us this whole baloney story about forgiveness being about how all of our pain is somebody else's fault. You know, the Greek counselor counseling forgiveness would say, well, your cousin didn't invite you, but, just let them off the hook for causing you pain. Totally fake forgiveness would have occurred. But when I confront a situation and I identify the goal that's driving my perception, remember the Harvard research we talked about, in a time frame where they can measure 10,000 brain cells firing, there are 10,000 measurable units of electrical activity happening in the brain. The max amount of data that goes into conscious awareness in that same time frame is 9 bits. Our perception is made up of that 9 bits of data. When I cancel the goal, my perception collapses. When it collapses in on itself, and it goes to its root. I like to use the visual of, the 9/11 towers. You'll remember they dropped at free fall speed into their own footprint. Now, of course, that's a physiological impossibility. That's a whole other story. All of that steel and all of that, how could that possibly collapse at free fall speed? That's just silly. But that's a different story. Where that visual becomes powerful is to recognize when I cancel a goal, that tower of perception, that thing that's so far above the root experience collapses in on itself, and it collapses into its own footprint. And if I'm in a receptive state, I'm going to get to see. And when I bring it forward in the presence of active love, dissolution is going to occur. That's when healing occurs. So that, in essence, is what we're all about. And I'm going to step into the reading that we've been doing. We're on the second page of chapter 17. The body has a mind of its own. If you've been following along with us, it's page 102. And we're looking at what governs the mind's operation here. So I've been talking with our character, Richard, about tuning forks and resonance, that the mind operates by resonance. If I put a middle C tuning fork in front of a second tuning fork, that second tuning fork will start to vibrate because there's an energy exchange. And pointing out that if there's no resonance, there's no energy exchange. That's the that governs the function of the mind. And so Richard says, what do you mean governs the mind? How do tuning forks govern the mind? Let's demonstrate, I suggested. Don't think about the color of your car, instructed. He looked at me a little puzzled. I asked him, what are you thinking about? He said, well, my blue car, resonance, I suppose. Couldn't be anything else, I interjected. I could have decided to think about something else if I'd wanted to, Richard shot back. Yes, but not without first deciding not to think about your car, which would be thinking about your car, I said with a grin. With my words, don't think about the color of your car, I set up an energy field. Imagine your mind is like a filing cabinet, and you have a file on cars. My words resonated that in your mind. In the same way that the tuning forks resonated and interchanged energy or information, your mind was stimulated into quote-unquote thought about your car. This action is not thinking at all, but simple resonance. It is a law that governs every process of the mind. Words are a frequency put out by the human voice. Our words resonate all information of similar frequencies in the mind that hears them. I call this the foul folder effect. And tomorrow we'll talk about the foul folder effect. In the meantime, building the brain cells for how this mind operates, having awareness, gives us a leg up and the ability to catch our mind when it's in its automatic phase, when the automatic decision system takes over, and by going beyond the operation of the automatic decision system, we get to become conscious operators of our minds. And, in essence, the gentleman I was speaking about at the beginning of the show became the conscious operator of his mind. Instead of going into a fit of rage at his cousins for not inviting him, he stopped. He looked at the root. Where could this rage possibly have come down? And found an experience that happened 60-plus years earlier that held a great deal of pain and hostility for him. That's the process of real healing. And most people don't want to look there, and so they take the teachings of this man, Yeshua, and they turn them into something that they are not. And they even, you hear people saying, well, Yeshua, he's got to do it all for you. There's nothing you can do. Hey, go back and hear his words, and he tells you there's plenty to be done. But those who don't want to look there, those who don't want to deal with that kind of thing to themselves, have made up a whole story. No, don't make me look at my life. There's nothing I can do anyway. Let me just turn it over to him, and he'll take care of it for me. The biggest fraud that's ever been portrayed upon the earth. There is a work to be done. Yeshua gave some powerful instructions, and they have nothing to do with religion. It's not a religious principle when a man at 70-plus years of age is going into a fit of rage over what seems to be something happening in the moment and catches himself and says, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be functioning as love. Why am I in rage? Stops, does a piece of work, finds the root of his rage, is able to throw it out, and literally heals in that moment. That's the work of Yeshua. That's not theology. It's got nothing to do with religion. Yeshua was not a religious leader. He was a healer. He was a physician. He was a geneticist. He was a psychologist. He was a physiologist. And the profundity of his work, when you start to really apply it, is just monumental. And we're delighted to be having this conversation with you and that you're here to apply it with us. And so, Miss Jeannie, we've got, 40 minutes. We've got plenty of time for conversation. Do we have anybody out there with a hand up on the phone with you? Yes.
No, there's no hands up, and there's no comments in the chat room. So if someone presses 1, you're first in line.
Oh, I thought you were going to say we have lots of hands up.
I know. We got a lot of people out here, but no hands are up.
Well, come on, folks. Let's have a conversation.
Maybe go ahead and
How
announce
can we
this
support
weekend.
You? Sure. We're going to do an online Mind Shifters and Still Point Breathing workshop. It'll start Friday night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. It'll go till probably sometime between 9 and 9:30 on Friday night. And then Saturday, again, Eastern Time, 10 a.m., we'll begin. We'll do the Mind Shifters process on Friday night. And then Saturday, we'll go into the Still Point Breathing process. We'll do some processing around what comes up for people with their writing assignment on Friday night. We're going to do this via Zoom, so you can do it from the comfort of your own home. We're going to guide you through the whole Still Point process. We've perfected doing that via Zoom, and it works extremely well, which I was pleasantly surprised with when we did our first Still Point breathing session during one of the intensives, and got some really monumental shifts and changes. So if you're out there in listener land and you're ready to do a piece of work, you could just drop Jeannie a note. If you don't have her phone number or mine, you could drop Jeannie a note at JEANIE at WHYagain.org. So Jeannie at whyagain.org, drop her an email with your name and number, and I'll call you. And if you have any questions about the workshop, or if you've got questions, please call. Hit 1 now, and we'll have a conversation. But beyond that, we'll get you registered and be delighted to have you take part. The cost of the whole the 2 days is $125, and if you want to participate, $125 is a problem for you. Contact us, and we'll work it out. We'll work it out in a way that makes it workable. And deal with some of their stuff, like the gentleman that I was just speaking about. That would be going into process work for him. And if he were in a workshop and something like that started to come up, let's say somebody in the workshop did something that resonated, something like that for him, and he weren't invested in his own work, that would probably be a case where he'd turn and yell at somebody and stomp out of the workshop. But if he's got an investment in being there, he's a whole lot more likely to stop and take a breath and say, okay, I've got some work to do here. And that's why, when we traveled, we always did our educational workshops. Why is this happening to me again? Healing through relationships, communications. They were all done free. Yes, at the end of each workshop, we invited people to donate to support us if they, needed support and benefited from that. We were always open and receptive, but there was never a requirement for that. With a process-oriented workshop such as this, there is a requirement. I remember one woman, this was in South Florida back several years ago, and, I had discovered that people have to invest. And she was, I want to do this so much, I want to come, I want to do the workshop. It was actually a series, I forget, it was like 6 or 8 weeks, something like that. But I just have no money and I can't afford it. So I said, well, see me after, this was like an open evening type of introduction. I said, see me after and we'll talk. So I set it up, and I said, okay, here's the deal. Here's the cost. I don't remember what the cost was now of the workshop. And I'm going to pay you $10 an hour to do worksheets. So each week you come in with your worksheets, and if you've got enough worksheets to cover the cost, then you're going to be a guest in the workshop. It won't cost you a penny. And she was so into, I just want to do this so much. So I set this up. Never heard from her again. Never showed up for any of the workshop. So it's a lesson I learned. And so it's part of the process of inviting people to dig in and do their work is they have to take some responsibility. And when they do, they'll tend to move into deeper and deeper places in their own minds. And that's what this work is all about, is moving into those deeper places. And the breath is so profoundly powerful at opening those hidden parts of the mind. It's called still point breathing, because there comes a point in the breathing process where involuntarily the breath spontaneously stops. And when the breath spontaneously stops, that's when the deepest levels of work are done. There's a chiropractor who has actually been turning a lot of people onto our work. He was in a movie interview back a few months ago, and he mentioned that his first introduction to the physiological presence of love was through still point breathing. That he lived in a world, he lived a life that just did not include the presence of love. And he came to a Mind Shifters and Still Point Breathing workshop about 25 years ago, and that was his first experience of physically feeling the presence of love, was during a still point session that we've done a couple of decades earlier. So in this interview, he brought that up. They were talking about, getting to that space of love. It's like, well, here's a reliable way to do it. And it is most amazing and most profound. So come and play with us this weekend, and it's about, we're getting on close to almost 1:30, so Miss Jeannie, certainly with all that conversation, we've got some hands up.
No, we do not. Come on, someone, press 1.
Well, you're out there in listener land. You know, if I were in your hometown, you know, on your local platform at your local library or your university or your prison or church or whatever it was, and I presented the thoughts that I just presented, if I were walking down off the stage and you were in the audience, and with what I've just said, I'm sure that everybody who's listening would walk over to me if the opportunity were there and say, well, Michael, what about? So this is the space for your what about question. That's what I've spoken about. You don't have one question? Come on, push one. Let's have a conversation. This is not designed to be a monologue. It's designed to be a conversation. You know, you can go back into our archives. We've got 10 years of archives, 3,300 hours. And it's a conversation that we've been having with people for 10 years. And we'd love for you to be engaged and ask your question. Ask for, or share what's going on in your world that you need support with, or how can we support you? What kind of questions do you have? If you're on one of those stations where we can't see you, our call-in number is 563-999-3581. So if you call that number, you'll be listening to the show. And if you push 1, through the magic of technology, that will raise the hand in the control panel. Jeannie will know that you want to speak to us. She'll introduce you by your area code, and we'll be having a conversation. So if you're out there listening, push 1. How can we support you? What's going on in your world? What's going on in your mind? And maybe there's no more conversation to be had for today, sweetie. You know, we have a long list. We have our granddaughter with us today, and lots on our plate. So if the conversation's complete, then maybe this is all we need to share for today. I'd rather continue the conversation for the next half hour, but I'd like to have someone to continue it with. So if you're
We have a hand.
Push 1. Oh, good.
Area code 541. I think this is Miss Julie.
Hi, Jeannie. Thank you.
Hey, young lady, we get the blessed to hear your voice 2 days in a row. How cool is that?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know what to say. But I did want to ask you guys where you went for a while on vacation, too. I think it was around the same time I went, because I hadn't really heard that, if you feel like repeating that. And then I might mention something else.
Well, you know, we last August, we had a new granddaughter born, St. Louis. My daughter, Krista, and her husband had a second baby. And we were, you know, scheduled to go out and be there for the birth. That was before COVID hit. And then COVID was happening, and it just seemed the better part of wisdom not to expose new mom and new baby to the possibility of that. So we just stayed and hung tight here in Bristol. And we finally decided that it was time to meet our granddaughter before her first eternal day, which she had just this past weekend. She turned 1. She's been circling the earth for a year. But we went out and got to meet our new very, very squeezable granddaughter. And we have her big sister, who was very excited about having a baby sister, is now 9, and we hadn't seen her since the whole COVID thing started. So we got to spend some time with her and her mom, and then we went and spent a few days with my son in Kansas City. He's got a new home that he's working on, and so we got to go spend some time with him. And then we went to Heartland. You know, when Jeannie and I got married, we moved out there. That was our home base, and we, you know, took a moving van and moved a lot of Jeannie's, especially her collectibles, out there. And thank you to Magda and Chuck and Julie, because we'd have never gotten it all packed up without their help. They stepped in before we got there and packed a lot of it up for us. So we actually rented a huge U-Haul trailer and filled it to the brim. The day that we left Heartland, we had a 22-hour day by the time we got back home here, and we're still unpacking boxes. So that was our vacation.
I hear you. That's a lot to do. Boy, that's big. And
that was a good
valuable. Mhm. Well, okay. So it wasn't a cruise or anything, but that's all right. Who needs
no
one?
Cruises. It was actually much better than a cruise. It was just really sweet family time. And this weekend, Aria Rain, it's her third birthday. Her third trip around the sun has happened and completing. And so this weekend we get to celebrate with Ryan and Gabby, her parents, and as she gets to realize what life is.
So are all of your girls, your grandgirls, are they all born in August? Am I wrong?
No, two of them in August. Oh. Our first granddaughter was born in December. Actually, on her grandmother's birthday, December 14th.
Oh, did you name
her?
And
that's Adeline Nora.
Okay. After grandmother? Oh, okay.
No, they just picked that name up. Actually, her middle name is her father's name in reverse. Her father's name is Aaron, and they reversed his name, and her second name is Nora. So we've got really Adeline, cool. Aria, and Avery Catherine.
I love it. Well,
so do I
can understand why Jeannie needed to get all her collectibles for all these people, these children, grandchildren to inherit. And otherwise, I'm getting rid of everything. So if you want some more, I'll send them your way.
No, thank you.
We're pretty full right now. You know, when we moved into Jeannie's dad's house, he'd been here for 50 years and wasn't about to be leaving. And when he got to the point where he couldn't, live on his own, we decided to move in with him. And it's kind of a small house, so we have a very full house, especially with all these collectibles now. And we're busily reorganizing. We actually just rented an additional storage unit, have been putting together shelving and putting things in storage that we won't be, needing immediately. And so there's lots on our plate, lots happening.
Yes. It's the American way. Well, I'm happy to say I'm getting to the end of my storage. It's really whittled down, and if I really pushed, I could get it all done, at least moved into my one-car garage by the end of this month. But I still think I should get rid of some of it instead of just hauling it all over here to where I can't even work on it, You got to have some space, right?
Yes.
So, but I am getting towards, I've been doing my little downsizing, not really because I wanted to get rid of everything, but just because it's time and it's a heavy weight on me. So it does feel good, and it's definitely part of my worksheet process because I get to look at what consciousness I've stored in it all. And why am I hanging on to it? Am I ready? It's like, am I ready to let go of this? Yes, and it does open up space, just like doing our internal work, getting the physical, relieving oneself in the physical of too much physical burden. So.
Right.
At least that's my evaluation. I'm judging it still, I guess. But, yeah. Well, I just thought I'd fill up some time and see if anybody else is there. I think I had another awareness lately, but it's not occurring to me right now. What was it?
Cool.
I don't know.
One of the things I've found while you're thinking about it is that the shortest pencil is longer than the longest memory. And if you keep an intense or a radio show notebook with questions and things like that, then bingo, it's always just right there. So, but you get yourself a notebook you keep near your phone for that purpose.
That's okay. Now that is a concept, Michael. And near your phone is like your phone is the notebook, or your phone is always moving. Consequently, my good ideas and good questions are not all in a notebook, but that is, I have many notebooks, many boxes full of notes. That's part of what I'm getting rid of. And you know what I mean?
Yeah, cool.
It's amazing to just live with a beautiful, creative mind. It really is. I love all the thoughts and realizations that are in the love spectrum. That could be a good book.
It was a great movie, A Beautiful Mind.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
Tell me about it.
Well, anything else on your beautiful mind at this moment?
I forget about that movie. I had a copy of it once. Tell me.
Yeah, it's a good one. Just thinking, probably need to go back and watch it again.
Okay, well, nothing's on my mind except my list of things to do. So, anyway,
all right, young lady, you have a blessed one then.
I'll call with more purpose next time, but it was fun to connect.
Okay.
Thank you. All right.
All right, blessings. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And speaking about movies, actually, Jeannie and I have picked up on a new series on Netflix entitled
Manifest.
Manifest. And it is awesome. What a teaching opportunity. It's a story, without giving away too much, of people who, they go on a vacation, and on the way back, one of the flights is overbooked, and they give the opportunity, we'll pay you and give you a free flight if you'll surrender your seat on this one. So the family gets split up, and the family comes home. Half of the family comes home, and then the next flight, the rest of the family is going to be on. Well, the next flight leaves, an hour or two or whatever it is later, but doesn't arrive back home for 5 years. And it's just a really well done teaching tool that shows how people get stuck in their realities and the resolution of those realities. And it also is a very powerful, somebody really creative put the work together in this film in such a way that it just really shows how energetically we're all connected. And it really introduces, the people who've disappeared, in the couple of hours that the flight was, supposed to show up. They've disappeared for 5 years, and nobody knows where they went, but they come back with what I would refer to as normal human powers and abilities, but those that aren't common in the culture. And so they're confused about it. Everybody around them is confused about it. But the bottom line, one of the bottom line messages that each of those who were on the flight that disappeared for 5 years is that everything's connected. And so there's some really powerful lessons in it. It goes right along hand in hand with the work. So pretty cool if you happen to be an entertainment buff. And that's how we spend a significant amount of our free time, our quiet time, is in just exploring films like that. And so Manifest on Netflix, very, very powerful teaching tool. Opens us up to what some of the possibilities are if we wake up to who we are. And of course, it creates all kinds of challenges for everybody because, after 5 years, of course, everybody on that plane was declared dead. The plane was lost, and, it took off and never arrived. Then when they arrive, of course, 5 years later, what's happened to people in their relationships, family situations and such. And so it's pretty powerful. Even has given us a couple of opportunities to breathe and do a little forgiveness work as well. So it's a powerful hand in hand with the work. Along with, one that we've talked about previously, it's another Netflix series called Call the Midwife. just some really profound circumstances that show up, very realistic, based in a true story, and opens a space for, really looking at one's life. There are two ways to go about doing the work. You can go through your life, and here comes the drama and trauma situation that brings up what you need to deal with, and oftentimes you can do some vicarious atonement through films by watching circumstances and situations that you don't have to go get yourself into them personally, but they can resonate and give you some powerful pieces of work to do. And I know that that series in particular for Jeannie and I, the Call the Midwife, really opened up some space for some really deep, profound processing work for us. So it's there are lots of gifts out there in the culture, lots of different ways to approach doing your work. And if you're out there in listener land, we've got about 20 minutes left, a little less than 20. If you raise a hand, we'll be having a conversation. How do you raise a hand? Push 1. Miss Jeannie, do we have anybody with a hand up? Anything happening in the chat room?
There have been several new people pop on here in just the last few minutes, but no hands are up. So if someone has a question or a comment, press 1.
Well, the writers put at least both, and sometimes more, ways of looking at the same problem. Really demonstrates different realities, and so anyway, that's one that I would recommend. And I see the time is going, so I just want to also say that I totally understand why you and Jeannie have sometimes been cutting the hours short when there's no one chipping into the discussion. It makes sense to me. However, I've been wondering if there are people who, as Jeannie just said, have just tuned in within the last few minutes, and if they find that the show isn't happening, maybe they think it really isn't happening anymore, and so they don't call in to get on the show or to listen to the show the next day. And so I was just wondering if it might be happening, and would it be a good thing perhaps to send a notice out to everyone on the mailing list that sometimes you are doing that, just to let people know if they tune in and you're not there, that's the reason why.
Yeah, actually, that's a good thought. We'll put that the next time we send the newsletter out, and let people know. There's just at this stage so much on our plate that if the dialogue isn't moving forward, a few times, not that many times in the last few months, I've decided to go ahead and let the show go. And again, it's meant to be a dialogue, not a monologue. And when the plate is full, if the dialogue isn't occurring, then we're going to go take care of what we need to take care of. So, but yeah, I'll do that. We'll put that note in and let people know, because we've got 10 steady years of it, and lots of conversation, and we appreciate it when people participate. It is a participatory show, so thank you for participating, and thanks for bringing up that suggestion for everybody of Designated Survivors. A very powerful series.
Oh my, yes. Yeah, and I know I watched some of it when it was actually originally on TV, but now we're watching the series, and man, there are so many cliffhangers. Yeah, we have to be very careful that we don't end up seeing the next one.
Yeah, to me, one of the messages. Yeah, on occasion we have done that. Yes.
What were you saying, Michael?
Well, I was going to say that one of the things that came across to me in that show, as you mentioned, his moral fiber and how important that is. And I remember back many years ago with a particular high-level politician that just flat out lied to the American people. It was not current events, which there's lots of that going on, but back many years ago, and I can remember, the economy was doing well, and this person, was actually impeached for lying, and this friend of mine who's a business person, he was quite happy with the way the economy was going, business was going. He's like, well, I don't care what he does in the bedroom, as long as the economy's working okay. It's like, yeah, but what our leaders hold up to our young people can lead to tragedy, and I think that particular president's deception and lack of moral fiber really had an impact on this country, as some of the current politics is having an impact, especially on young people. And I think it's really important. I personally think that it would be awesome if, in order to run for political office, you first had to be a human being, that you actually had to be able to function as love with integrity. I think that would be absolutely awesome, and it would change our country overnight. But
right, it would be awesome. It would be wonderful.
Yeah.
So when we get to make up the rules, then we'll institute that. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. All right, young lady. We appreciate you. Lots of love and blessings. All righty, take care.
See ya. We have another hand up, area code 541. I think this is Miss Celinda.
Hello. How are you doing?
Well, hey there, young lady. Welcome.
Yes, I just wanted to ask you to refresh my understanding of this intensive you're doing, the still point. And I was wondering, how long will it last? Because I'm still in the motorhome, and so I have to share the space with Larry, and
sure.
I just want to make sure that
so, Linda, I sent out an email yesterday or day before one to all of the attendees of the intensives with a flyer and a picture of how to set up your camera and the Zoom link, all that stuff. So if you did not get it, let me know, and I'll send it again.
It's probably there, and I have to go over tomorrow afternoon. But what time? But the thing starts at 4, right? Pacific time.
No.
Yes.
It'll be 4:00 Pacific time.
Right.
Let's talk in terms of Eastern time. It'll be 7 to sometime between 9 and 9:30. So for about 2 to 2.5 hours on Friday.
Okay.
And then Saturday it'll start at 10 a.m. Eastern time and go till sometime probably between 4 and 6 in the afternoon, depending how much process work we get into with the still point breathing.
So 7 o'clock my time to say 1 or 2 or 3 in the afternoon.
Yeah, that would probably work. Yes.
Okay,
and we'll go right through and actually into and guide people through and support people through the still point process. And we need, if you're going to do it, we need for you to register, and we'll send you a Zoom link. So so you're there for participation. So when you get to connect, then drop a note that you want to register, and you're on it as a guest.
Right, and then if it's a go, I will contact you and Jeannie, and maybe you could just text me the number, possibly, or how would I register?
You register by just letting us know you're definitely going to be there, but you need to sign on your computer so that we can, see you and all that, like we did during the intensive.
So there are numbers I need to dial and to get on. Is that correct?
Yes. Can you get your email on your phone?
No, not yet. I haven't figured out how to do that.
Because it's quite a long number. You really need to open it on your email.
Oh, okay. I see. All right, great.
Do you have a computer?
I do.
Do you have a computer linked to the internet there?
No.
That's a challenge. Okay.
Yeah, that is
because
a challenge.
Part of we're doing the intensive on Zoom. We're doing the process on Zoom, and we want to have visuals so we can see you and guide you through the process.
Oh, that's right. I totally forgot that that has to be through the internet. Okay, I'm probably unwilling. It's not unwilling. I would love to do this again, but I will have to pass because I don't have consistent internet access. So anyway, I will pass on it. And I sent you a card, and I don't know if you got it or not. With a little donation. Yeah, and then I will continue as I can to donate because I fully intend to support your work, and I am, I really appreciate it. And I mentioned that to Dr. Tim when I talked to him this morning. I think the Renaissance is happening, Michael and Jeannie.
It's time.
It's just that, remember, before the sunrise, it's always darkest before the sunrise.
There you go. All right. You have a blessed one.
All right.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye-bye.
And we have another hand up. We're got 3 minutes. Susan, 610, you're on the air.
Okay, well, I'll ask the quickest one of my questions. Tim Bingham had a friend from way, way back who showed up on our doorstep some years ago with a woman, a wife from China, who started telling us about how everybody should be taking Synthroid, that everybody's thyroid is not working
Thyroid
properly.
problems?
Yeah, and so I thought, well, I'll file that away. Well, she came to visit us again, and it's a weird relationship because it really isn't a dialogue. She spent the entire time telling us about this and wonderful success and that wonderful success because she put these people on Synthroid. And I'm thinking, I don't know anything about this. My mother was on it as an old person, and she was a tiny little person, was on a tiny little bit of it, but it didn't hurt her. What do you think? What's that about? Why is she doing that?
I have no idea. If people have a thyroid problem, Synthroid, is a synthetic way to, give something that at least is a reflection of the function of the thyroid. But and if people have the thyroids removed, I know that's definitely the drug of choice. But why somebody would just say everybody should be on it, I don't know. Mind you, now the medical profession is adjusting, normal body temperature 98.6, but it's just the last few years, and I think since there've been a lot of fooling around with drugs and changing the function of people's bodies, they're saying, well, your normal body temperature is 97.5. That's your normal. But really, we need 98.6 for enzymes to work properly and such. And lower body temperatures, I don't believe, are norms. And, so there might be reasons to give the thyroid a boost. I know I had one friend who was a physician who had a protocol where for a short period of time he did put people on a thyroid booster, a drug, but it was to give the thyroid a jump start to get it going again, and then he would take people off of it to give them that boost. But I certainly wouldn't participate in that experiment.
Okay, so strange. Yeah, well, I appreciate your naturopathic past and your knowledge, so thanks. That's
all right, young lady.
I've asked
we're
my
down
doctor.
For the last few seconds.
Okay.
Well, we hold you in our hearts.